History keeps many secrets. But some of the most luminous are the stories of royal couples who truly loved. In a world where duty often wears the mask of romance, these pairs found a way to nurture affection, to weather distance, to forgive, and to bloom again when life grew heavy. Tonight, we walk through a history unveiled. A gallery of devotion that survived crowns, wars, and time itself. If you crave hope that love can endure, this tour is for you. We begin with a love that grew beneath the bond between Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal. They did not meet in a glittering ballroom but in the hum of a growing realm, where every alliance carried a price. Yet their companionship blossomed into a vow that outlived them both. It was Mumtaz who stood beside Shah Jahan through triumphs and losses, who listened when the map of the realm grew heavy, and who chose to matter beyond politics. The Taj became more than stone. It was a monument to a union that refused to fade into mere dynasty. In their story we hear a quiet rebellion against the clock. A king who paused in the glare of conquest to hold a partner close. A queen whose presence steadied a nation's pulse. Their love did not erase danger, but it turned danger into a shared duty. A reason to come home at day's end. And when Mumtaz passed, Jahan's grief became the blueprint for a monument that speaks of enduring care. The world still senses that love, when tended with devotion, can become architecture for generations to come. Then we drift toward the luminous tension of Cleopatra and Antony. A romance etched in war drums and imperial maps. Cleopatra, queen of a vast North African kingdom, did not simply woo Antony with charm. She offered a mirror of her courage. A mirror that reflected his own longing for a grand, almost risky, partnership. Their days together were not a fairy tale's soft sighs but a collision of passions that altered a continent's fate. Yet even in defeat, their love left a resonance, an idea that desire, when chosen with honesty, can illuminate paths through shadows. A soft hush settles as we turn to another legend, Napoleon and Josephine. He courted her with the fervor of a campaign, and she steadied him with the grace of a confidant who never doubted his heart. Theirs was a romance built in the heat of ambition. Yet it endured because they learned to listen through the noise of power. Napoleon's emprise mattered less when Josephine's affection mattered most. And even as politics tugged them apart, their letters became a living map of a love that refused to fade. If grand victories define history, it's often the quiet notes of two people choosing each other again and again that define real courage. From the era of revolution and empire, we travel to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. A partnership that became the backbone of a century. They married not merely for alliance but for companionship, drafting a life together with tenderness as their compass. Victoria wrote of him as a partner who could share the weight of 1,000 responsibilities. And Albert answered with a patient, enduring devotion that helped shape manners, science, and family life across a growing empire. Their union teaches us that love can be a garden you tend in public and a shelter you retreat to in private. We move to the Iberian Peninsula, where Ferdinand and Isabella forged a country that would outlive their reign. Their romance was not a simple romance but a verdict that their bond could be the bedrock for a nation. They navigated religious tension, distant crowns, and the ever-present lure of conquest with a steady hand and a shared dream. Their portraits remind us that true love can multiply strength. That affection between rulers can become unity for a people, giving birth to lasting legacies and a sense of hopeful continuity. Another enduring example emerges from the medieval world. Eleanor of Aquitaine and Henry II. Their courtly tenderness coexisted with fierce diplomacy, and their letters and chronicles show a relationship that could bend history because it bent toward understanding. They faced exile, rebellion, and the grit of governing an evolving realm. Yet the memory of their mutual respect remains a beacon, a reminder that affection, when tempered by respect, can be a force for reconciliation and forward motion. Now, Lift your gaze to more intimate corners of royalty, where letters and quiet moments reveal a different kind of strength. Consider royal couples who were never perfect, yet who navigated betrayal, illness, or distance with a stubborn tenderness. The thread running through these stories is not merely romance but resilience, the capacity to choose love in the face of doubt, to forgive, and to begin again when the world reshapes itself. In every era, love faced its tests: political intrigue, betrayal, exile, or the slow erosion of distance. And yet, when these pairs found their way back to each other, they offered a template for those who believed romance could survive the most demanding chapters. The truth shines through in the simple human moments: a shared glance after a long night, a letter carried through a sea of duties, a quiet promise spoken beside a lamp in a palace hall. These are not myths we applaud from afar. They are blueprints for how to keep a heart alive amid obligation. As we close this tour, let us carry with us the sense that love is not a fragile ornament but a living practice. It is what remains when titles fade, when generations pass, and when the crown is long gone. The couples we met did not pretend perfection, they worshipped imperfect devotion. They learned to listen, to adapt, and to rebuild trust when storms battered their paths. Their stories say, love can grow in the margins of power, in the everyday rituals of partnership, in the quiet choice to stay, even when interests pull in different directions. If you've ever hoped for a love that endures, you'll find that hope mirrored here. In names we recognize and in moments that feel almost intimate in their honesty. So take a final breath of these histories, a breath shaped by centuries of devotion. Let them remind you that romance, in its truest form, is not a single moment of grandeur but a long, steady practice, showing up, choosing each other, and building a world where love can flourish in the smallest details as surely as in the grand gestures. The history of royal couples who truly loved is a quiet testimony that love can be both intimate and enduring. A light that travels through time to reach us now. The pages turn a little further as we step into quieter corners of history, where not even the weight of crowns could silence the language of true, tested love. Eleanor of Castile and Edward I walk beside us in the memory of their travels. A pair who proved that affection can be a compass even when borders are blazing with war. Eleanor moved with the king through long campaigns, bearing warmth into cold camps and translating longing into daily acts of care. She dressed wounds with tenderness and kept faces hopeful when the road grew brutal. Their love wasn't loud or dramatic in every moment, but it was steady. A soft thread that held a restless realm together. When Edward mourned, she offered him a homecoming in the heart. The promise that a good king needed a good home to return to. Their shared ritual, small gifts, letters, a memory kept alive in the quiet of the palace walls, became a testament to devotion that withstands the loud. From the English marches, we glide to a faraway court where Mera Nissa, Nur Jahan, ruled with wit as luminous as the moon and a grace that steadied 1,000 courtiers. Jahangir's world was vast, yet Nur Jahan's presence narrowed the distance between power and mercy. Their partnership wasn't merely political, it was a dance of trust. A shared sense that leadership could be tempered by loyalty and laughter. She curated culture, rescued artists, and still found time for tenderness in the palace corridors. When the empire trembled, it was their quiet fidelity, her keen counsel, his softened heart that kept a people steady and hopeful. Across the waters and through the centuries, the case is made again with Kublai Khan and Chabi. In the vast corridors of the Silk Road, her steady presence tempered the unpredictable force of empire. Chabi spoke softly to power and more loudly to mercy, guiding decisions on trade, religion, and diplomacy with a partner who listened. Their love wasn't a glittering legend of romance alone, it was a practical, generous alliance that shaped a dynasty and a culture. When caravans crossed deserts and cities rose and fell, their bond endured as a living map for a people who believed that affection could chart the future as surely as any decree. We pause again at a later twilight. In a modern palace of the last century, where Elizabeth II and Prince Philip offered a different kind of romance, one tested by media glare, distance, and the ceaseless pull of duty. Their marriage weathered storms that would have strained lesser hearts, the early misperceptions, the loneliness of long absences, the unspoken questions that come when a couple is watched by millions. Yet their affection matured into a steadfast respect. A quiet partnership that proved people in love can grow together even as life tilts. They showed that love isn't only a spark at SA long. Patient practice of showing up, of supporting each other through the days that feel ordinary and the moments that demand bravery. And then we arrive at a pair whose story unfolds in the glow of candlelit salons and the perilous tremor of revolution. Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI. Their bond began in the hush of an arranged match. Yet it evolved under the pressure of a changing world. They faced whispers, fear, and the brutal tempo of upheaval. But their letters and shared glances reveal a tenderness that endured the storm. Their humanity snatched moments of warmth amid ceremony. Whispered reassurances in the dim corridors of power reminds us that even royal life, with its gilded demands, can be a sanctuary for genuine care. In facing danger together, they offered a fragile, poignant image of love as a shelter against chaos. If you've walked these halls with me, you'll notice a thread: love, in its most enduring form, doesn't demand perfection. It asks for choices made again and again, the choice to listen, to forgive, to stay near when the world pulls away. It's the courage to welcome a partner into a life of visible duty and invisible vulnerability. It's the simple, stubborn belief that two hearts can become a home strong enough for centuries to come. So, as we close this continued journey through history, carry with you the sense that royal love, in all its forms, is a practice patient, resilient, and occasionally quiet as a dawn. It teaches us that the most profound happily ever after isn't a single moment of glory but a lifetime, and building a world where love can endure, even when